Well, hello, Playbill readers. I'm Mark Pikert, editor in chief of Playbill, and you are tuned in to the very first episode of a new series called Stream Stealers, where I shamelessly get to talk to all of my favorite people with stage backgrounds who have amazing film and TV projects in the works coming up. So, the very first episode, I'm delighted, is Kathryn Hahn, who made her Broadway debut in 2008 on this very day in Boeing, Boeing, and she's got an HBO miniseries, limited series. It's 2020. We call them limited series now, with Mark Ruffalo premiering on Sunday. Uh, I know this much is true. It's a very long title, but I finally mastered it today, and I'm going to bring her on now.
Hi, Mark. How are you? I did not know that this was your first episode. I'm so flattered.
Yes, I saw that it was a Boeing anniversary, and I was like, oh, you know what? I'm absolutely using this 5 years later to get the chance to talk to Kathryn Hahn again.
Perfect. I had no idea even it was like that it was even the anniversary. That's so crazy. Oh my God.
I mean, so first of all, I have to say, we met 5 years ago when you were on the cover of Backstage magazine when I was editor in chief of that. And
Yes.
to this day, when people say, after they ask me who my worst interview was, when they ask me who my best interview was, I always say you.
Mark. Oh God. I remember that as being, it was such a joy. We spent a day together. We ate croissants. We hung out. We went and saw some fashion.
We did. My recorder deleted the entire interview after 45
That's
minutes.
right. I completely forgot about that. Oh my God, that's right. We had hours together and then it was,
Yeah.
but that was amazing. I love a happy accident.
I mean, it worked out. It was perfect. You and I huddled together and recreated the entire thing in 5 minutes because you had
Yeah, we
Pilates,
did.
you ended up skipping. So you're welcome for
Yes.
that.
I listen, thank you. You still look fabulous. So that one class would not have tipped you over the edge.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that.
It's
And
so
then
good to see you. It's so crazy.
I mean, so I want to talk about HBO and getting to work with Mark Ruffalo, but first I have to talk about Boeing, Boeing, which was one of the great comedies of the last 20 years on Broadway.
Mm,
And what a joy to get to do that show with that cast, Mark Rylance and Mary
mhm,
McCormick and Christine Baranski, her last time on Broadway so far.
mm. I know. Yeah, that was a dream. That was my first time. And my only time on Broadway. So I'm so itching get back to get back there. That was yeah, that was the dreamiest. And also just like the because the material, you're right, it was such an old school farce. You just did not know how it was going to land because it was so kind of old fashioned and kind of dusty. So they had done it once in London, and I'll just never forget that first preview, I guess, in front of the audience where because when we were in rehearsal, we couldn't really, there was no laughter. We didn't know how things were going to land. We didn't know, like, on the page if they were as funny as, like, we couldn't tell. It was like a translation. But then I'll never forget that first preview where, like, the laughs just were like it was so strange. It was the weirdest, most amazing feeling. Like, it took a second to, like, get on top of the laughs, if that makes sense, to try to like because it kind of felt a little bit out of control. I remember that we couldn't find our rhythm with the audience, like, because we just didn't expect that much response. That was so crazy.
Well,
And
and
Mama working on a raked stage in high heels took me a goddamn second too. I'm not gonna lie.
just being a sexy American air hostess.
Yeah, exactly. We had with my little wig. Yeah, we that I mean, yeah, the whole thing was just like the dreamiest. I mean, just to be able to, like, bear witness to Mark every night that close, and just to learn from him was just like was was a dream. Um yeah, he's a shaman, that human being.
I mean, it's ridiculous what the range. He's got the range.
He does. You know what he does? He and Yeah, the whole thing, our amazing director, was like the whole thing was a dream, really. And, like, again, like, no idea how it was gonna. I mean, I knew it had done well in London, but I just didn't know how it was gonna translate to American audiences, or if it was gonna, like, land with this. And boy, it was thrilling.
Well, and you haven't been on Broadway since, but you have gotten back to your stage roots recently with Glengarry Glen Ross,
Yes.
populated by dolls.
Yes, with American Girl dolls. Yeah, that was for my friend who runs the Geffen Theater. They were doing a Stay House program, like just to kind of have just some theatrical something, just content, and to keep people remembering the theater during this crazy time. And yeah, that came to us very fast. We knew we wanted to use our kids, but we knew we didn't want to use their faces. And my daughter was very excited to be able to swear. I don't know where that comes from.
So strange.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. It was like this was a
Who
whole new
goes there
side of.
to pick things
I'll
up?
tell you, we do not swear in
No,
front of our children.
no,
In fact,
famously.
mm-mm.
You're like the Loretta Lynn, the Loretta Young of, well, maybe also the Loretta Lynn
Maybe I am the Loretta Lynn. Who knows?
of Hollywood. I like that for you, coal miner's daughter. You know, can we reboot that?
Exactly. Listen, that sounds amazing.
I mean, you've got the time.
We could reboot it. Exactly. But what if that's maybe that'll be my next project. The
HBO is
American Girl
probably
doll.
watching. They're going to greenlight it based on this alone.
Fine. Listen, we got to keep art going.
So I love that you, and for those of you who did not watch, please go back and watch two shows that not enough people watch. I Love Dick and Mrs. Fletcher, because you are so incredible on both of those series. And the thing that I love about your career is you are one of the funniest people that I see on stage, on film and TV.
Mm.
But also, speaking of the range, you play these wonderfully oddball women without any judgment and without making them into punchlines where they very easily could be. And you find these layers of humanity and female sexuality that we do not see nearly enough of on scripted television. And is that something that you look for in roles, or is it just a snowball effect where you did it once and people kind of turn to you to talk about these things?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly wasn't conscious at all. My God, but you know, there just all of a sudden was like a chapter. I think it maybe it started with Jill with Soloway, where there was, starting with Afternoon Delight and then moving on into Transparent, and then we had thought, her and the amazing writer Sarah Gubbins had been working working on adapting I Love Dick, and um, so yeah, I mean, I think I just happened to like step into a moment where I was the age where I was in my in my then early 40s, now mid 40s, but then I was able to step into a moment where those roles were starting to be explored in a really complicated and juicy way. I'm so 100% for showing someone with, I think we're contradictions, all of us, and I think and incredibly complex. And I love the idea of showing a woman that um, is all of those things and unabashed, like especially in I Love Dick. Like that was so fun to play because she was just without any sort of like embarrassment or shame about her desire. And I think that that's something that was very, especially at that moment, was really rare to see. And yeah, I'm same with Mrs. Fletcher. Like I thought that was a really interesting way into it was addressing an interesting period in a woman's life that has so long been kind of shrouded in like shame or embarrassment or like invisibility. um there's something really thrilling about making her visible in all of her wants and desires and insecurities and all that stuff. So yeah, it's been a really fun chapter for sure. And nothing like conscious, like I'm not consciously, but it just seems to be those filmmakers or those women, um, or those creators, um, seem to have that material seems to have been around more, and people are more interested in exploring it and telling those stories and
Yeah.
giving them money to tell those stories. So I was just very lucky to be able to walk into that moment.
Well, now you're working with another Mark. You love your Marks, Mark Rylance,
Mark.
Mark Reichert, Mark
All my
Ruffalo.
marks, my marky marks.
So May 10th, Sunday, HBO is premiering 6-part miniseries based on the Wally Lamb novel, which was an Oprah Book Club choice. And once I saw that, when I was doing research for this, I saw the book cover and I was like, oh, I remember that book from Every Walden Books in 1998.
Totally.
It was everywhere.
Yes, it was everywhere. I never read it, um, but I, when I was asked to meet with Derek Cianfrance, the director of this, who I was such an admirer of from Blue Valentine, and I just think he's such an. I just remember seeing that and being like, oh, this is like what I want to make. Like this is the kind of like intimacy and humanity and trench digging that is like an actor's dream. And so I devoured the book and the adaptation in a really short amount of time. I was doing Mrs. Fletcher actually at the same time, and I just was so crazy moved by it and just taken. And yeah, I knew I wanted in for sure.
And so Mark Ruffalo plays identical twins.
Clawed my way in there, Mark. I just clawed my way in there.
You weren't even cast. You just showed up often enough that they said, never mind.
Showed up often enough that all of a sudden we just started doing scenes together. It was weird.
You know, if you hang out at craft services long enough, someone is going to put the camera.
Eventually. Do you like my big blue bottle? Sorry.
Oh, I love that. Oh, I have my.
Oh, see, look at your beveled glass. That is much. This is my old water bottle. I can't find the lid, but I'm just gonna keep using it. Gotta stay hydrated.
I mean, hydration is so important.
Just big old gin and tonic in here.
Oh, I forgot the tonic. So.
Oh, just straight gin.
Cheers.
Cheers. You know what? Cheers.
So, in the miniseries, the limited series, Mark Ruffalo plays identical twins, and you play Dominic's ex-wife.
Yes. Yes.
And one of the twins has severe schizophrenia, and they're dealing with the repercussions of living with that and medication. And the cast is again stacked.
Yeah, it's crazy group of humans, all of them. I mean, Rosie O'Donnell's so amazing, and Juliette Lewis is so amazing. Imogen Poots is incredible. Like John Procaccino is an actor that I had been on my radar, but I had never really seen his work before in this way, and I just think he's so extraordinary. And Archie, yeah, the cast is crazy. The cast is crazy, and but it all stems down from that number one on the call sheet, who's Mark Ruffalo, who is just, I had heard the rumors that he was like one of the nicest people, and that it would be just such a dream to work with him. And because not only is he such an incredible actor's actor, but he just is also supposed to be just like the nicest person. And he really is, like, it's crazy. He's such a decent, good egg. And same with Derek, like he's such an incredible listener. Like they both are just such good listeners, and they really, you find yourself as an actor, like incredibly empowered by that kind of confidence. So by the, it's very intense subject matter. And I'm it's Mark's story. I mean, he carries it. He in those two amazing roles. But you do, so the rest of us kind of like bopped in and out, but they just set such an environment where you just were able to like step right back to the depth that was required. And I think it has so much to do with Mark and Derek's just like openness to collaborate. So you just really everybody kind of walked on that set feeling exactly that they belonged there, and they had of course so much to contribute, and there was nothing nothing prescribed.
Yeah.
It was not micromanaged or like intellectual. It was just, we kind of found it. It was like a dream.
When I got to interview Mark a couple of years ago, and I will always say that he is the nicest guy in the world, because I made a joke about him ending up shirtless for all of his photo shoots.
Oh.
And he very sincerely said, "Oh, should I take my shirt off?" I'm like, yes, you should.
Oh my God. So sincere. Yeah, he's the best. And he's also like just a really, like, again, it's so strange because not strange, it should be like this, as intense as this, again, like as heavy as it is, this material. And he's like, he not only was in every single scene every day, 6 months shoot, like doing such incredible work, but he's also was a producer on it, and he's also uh, was able to just kind of meet everybody with such generosity. I really learned so much from watching him navigate this experience, and also the like kindness and decency and openness between he and Derek was also something that was quite special to watch. Yeah, they were almost like brothers for sure by the end of it, ironically.
Well, and then I mean, it's not just Lindsay Lohan and the Parent Trap playing twins. He gained 20 pounds.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, his physical transformation was totally something, but then um and I didn't really have anything to do with Thomas. My storyline had mostly to do with Dominic, who is this kind of the same son who's kind of trying to hold it together for the family, or this twin. And but when I saw an image of him as Thomas, the schizophrenic twin, um, I was not only blown away by his physical transformation, but just like by what was behind the eyes was totally different. Like he was just a completely different bird, and it was really stunning. I mean, I'm telling you, it was such a privilege to be able to just be kind of that close to that person doing this kind of work, and
Yeah.
uh, yeah, because he just doesn't leave anything on the table. Um, I
I
mean,
mean,
just like kind of lets the expression.
the transformation was so wild. I fact checked over and over again that they are identical twins.
Yeah,
Even though
I
he's
know.
the same actors playing both of them, I was like, no, they can't. They must be like fraternal twins. No,
No, yeah.
identical twins. That's
But
how.
then that's kind of like how, but it makes so much sense to me that that's kind of how their circumstances led them to look exactly who they were. I mean, it was so brilliant. I know.
I mean,
I hats off to the kid that played the young Mark too. I thought he was incredible. That Philip Ettinger, I think did such an incredible job because he had to do the same thing. Um, Basically played the twins, and I thought he was incredible.
well, and at some point, according to Marvel, WandaVision is going to come out, and you have a, I'm assuming a mysterious role on that you're not allowed contractually to talk about at all. But I
Yes.
assume that you're
I will
actually.
I'll just disappear. There'll be just like a cloud of smoke sitting on this chair. And you'd be like, where did she go?
It's Marvel. Marvel took it. Marvel took you to the quiet place.
Exactly. That'd be a good crossover. Yeah, no, I'm really thrilled about that one too. That a totally different genre, obviously. And uh but it's so fun. I mean, so much fun. Yeah.
I mean, how fun to get to bounce around from all of these projects and these wildly different genres and get to work.
I don't know how it happened. It's really weird. I was able to really pull the wool over someone's eyes and kind of like slip around, kind of, I was able to just kind of like slip around under the radar enough that they're just letting me be able to do this. It is really a dream for sure.
Well, you said something in 2015 when we had our interview that I think
We were children. We were children.
we were so young.
Who would have thought? I know, we were so young.
And I think that was like the day before my birthday. That whole thing was like the day before my birthday.
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah.
Exactly. But
When-
that was so dreamy. Just to be on backstage too, like the fact that you worked there, like the whole thing was like, that was my paper. That was like when I first moved to New York as an actor. That was like how my in with no agent, no anything. That was like the way, we'd go wait in line down.
But now we're at Playbill.
Oh, I know. Now you're Playbill, which is also like a crazy actor's dream.
Stop promoting the other paper.
They all have to stay around. What are we gonna do? But Playbill, yeah, exactly. Playbill is like crazy thrilling. This is ridiculous. I mean,
when we were
can't believe
talking, you were talking about being very grateful for getting the career that you had at the time, and you said, being in New York City, I walk around and I see all these ghosts of my younger self, and all these 20-something actresses who have just moved here and are looking to make it, and I just want to go up to all of them and say it's going to be okay. And I think about that all the time, especially around like NYU orientation.
No, God. I mean, it's true. Like, I think I do. So often you think about you look back to your younger self and you're, God, I was so hard on myself, or God, I wish I could have just like now, of course, at this age, it's like, I wish that I could have just like really relaxed. I mean, who would have thunk that anything was in my future of that this kind of stuff was in my future? But um, uh, you think you have such a finite amount of time to do something, and that it's going to happen within a, especially for a woman, I guess, like that if it doesn't happen by this age, then oh, yeah, like that was the kind of the like nonsense that I kind of grew up hearing. Um, even when I went to grad school a little later than a lot of people in my class, and I just remember having been told like you're going to miss out on your ingenue years, like you shouldn't do it, you shouldn't do it, and like you just never know, like you just never ever know. And I mean, especially to young women, I just want to say like, oof, the juicier stuff is in your future, that may possibly that you could never have possibly imagined.
Well, and you're on TBS every weekend and How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days now too. So
My God, that's on all the time. All of a sudden, someone else had told me that. I finally saw it with my daughter, who's 10, and it was really crazy to see that again after all of these years. Be like, oh my God, is that what I had? First of all, just plot wise, it made more sense to me.
I was going to say, did you figure out the plot this time, or are you more in the dark now?
Exactly. I'm still kind of like, wait, what? But I mean, what? It's so crazy to look at like, you know, that awesome group of humans, and just think about how young we were when we were making that. And again, that was something like I didn't know what box office was. I didn't know what anything was. Like I had no idea what was. You just an actor doing my job, and it's crazy to think that God, we just don't make those kind of movies that much anymore.
I know. I've during quarantine, and I want to know what you're watching during quarantine too before we go. But during quarantine, I found myself going back to a lot of New York City movies, like
Mm.
how I learned to drive. Nope. How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. And I just rewatched Ghostbusters, the original.
Oh yeah.
Oh man, it holds up.
Oh, it's so fun. I know those guys. Sigourney Weaver. She's just a goddess.
Sigourney Weaver.
I mean, she's a goddess. Um, uh, yeah, I know. It's funny. I've been doing that a little bit of that too, just like looking at Manhattan and just thinking about the movies that I've been able to make on the streets of that city, and that so many people have been able to make on the just streets of that city. And I said this to someone else recently, but it is true. Like the thrill of shooting in New York had always been that the city was so much louder than what you were making. And so it put whatever you were making into such perspective. Like you were like, oh, you're just making a movie because that city is just going to go on without you. Like, doesn't care. It doesn't care. Like you're trying to get something on the street and that city just does not, just like it doesn't care. Like it just puts movies in such a perfect like perspective, which I always loved about shooting there. I love about shooting there.
I mean, that's how so many movies set in New York end up with rats on camera, because they just hung out at the craft services table and got put in the movie.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and you always like think about the sound team at the other end that has to try to edit out like, the screaming and the honks and the things and it's like you never know. You can't. It's just an uncontrollable environment, and that's what's so beautiful about shooting there.
Well, and I have to say, I meant to bring this up earlier. I love that you have reunited with Imogen Poots.
I know.
Still sharing a man every time.
Right. Always. We're always sharing guys. We made that joke together, I think, even in like an email before this started. I'm like, here we are sharing another guy. But she's a dream. I just saw her movie recently, The Vivarium. I don't know if you've seen that yet, but it is real worth it. Her and Jesse Eisenberg. Yeah, it's great. I wish that we had anything to do together in this, any scenes to do together, but I love that gem.
I mean, Black Christmas was.
I haven't seen that yet.
Oh, she's so good. She's so good.
Okay,
Add it to the queue.
Because that's based on another horror movie, right?
Yeah, but this is a wild new twist that had the horror fanboys very upset. It is the only horror slasher movie I've ever seen that has a Diva Cup reference.
Oh, no, that's fantastic.
Oh, it's highly worth your time. I cannot recommend it enough. It's basically a horror movie about the patriarchy.
Oh, I can't wait.
Yeah,
Oh my God, I'm totally gonna see that. That sounds fantastic.
it's
Yeah,
really
no,
good. It's what we all need
she's
right now.
bad. I love her.
I do too. And you both were so much fun, and she's funny that way. The Peter Bogdanovich movie that came out a few years
Oh
ago.
yeah, talk about a movie that we did in New York. Yeah, that was a real that's really close to me in terms of my just history, whatever. When I look back and I think about that summer of shooting there with him, and that was really like the craziest, like most surreal experience, but like what a dream.
Yeah. Well, what a dream you are, Catherine Hahn, as
Oh God.
always.
Oh my God. Wait
Part
a
of
minute. You were
the.
asking me what I was watching right now.
Oh,
You
yes.
asked me what I was watching. It's difficult. I've got two kids over here, so like your window of watching something, you got to find something to do together. So there's like a gazillion movies on Criterion that I have like queued up that I cannot wait to see. But what we've been watching as a family has been, um, uh, like we're, I mean, really into The Last Dance because I was in Chicago when all that was happening with the
Yeah.
Bulls, and that's pretty fantastic. And uh, we just saw this show called Home Before Dark. Again, this is all stuff that you can watch, like that I'm watching with a 10-year-old and a 13-year-old, but um, that's been fantastic. But then we've also been going back and watching some like old movies. We have to like fast forward. I mean, it's hilarious to say old because they were part of my childhood. It's so weird that that's what they are now. But
Yeah.
like we saw Do the Right Thing recently with the kids, and that was pretty amazing. We just had to fast forward a couple scenes um, that had to do with the amazing Rosie Perez. But her dancing at the beginning, forget it. Oh,
Oh
there's
my
so
God.
much in that movie. I mean, just forget it. She's so good. And we saw There Will Be Blood as a family. That was a light evening.
Yeah.
But lots to think about. Yeah, we've been watching a ton of documentaries together, and but I've been doing a lot of like reading, and it's been I don't know about you, but my attention span is really like interesting all of a sudden. So we've been trying to settle down with movies, and then it's difficult. But we have been watching a lot of horror, my son and I, because I was about 13 years old when he was interested in when I was started to get interested in watching horror movies, and
Oh yeah.
so we've been watching some together, which is fun.
Highly recommend the OG Nightmare on Elm Street.
Oh yeah, we got to do that. We have to do that. And there's
It's
another thing I know.
perfect movie.
Yeah, we've got to do that. We watched. Oh my God. Well, we watched The Babadook recently, which is like crazy good. I know my son was, I was like, he's 13 and a half, but I was like, that movie, I was like, you just have to watch it for this woman's performance because she's so extraordinary.
I mean,
She's so,
all these characters in horror movies who end up watching Night of the Living Dead on TV late at night, if you would just put on a rerun of The Golden Girls every once in a while, things might turn out differently.
you're right. But why do they have to do that in horror movies? Why are they also always watching horror movies or terror? Yeah, exactly. That's like a really, really astute point, Mark.
There was some horror movie, and maybe it was Lights Out. Now it's just turned into like us on the phone gossiping.
Yeah, we're just talking about horror movies, which I kind of love.
In Lights Out, they're watching a scene from Auntie Mame.
Oh, that's really funny. I didn't see Lights Out. That's a really great idea. I love that actually. I wonder how that ties in. That's
I don't know.
fantastic.
It was such a random moment where I was like, "Oh, I've never related more to a character in a horror film before. Am I going to be the next to be murdered?"
That's kind of amazing. Yeah, you would not expect it while you're watching Auntie Mame. You're right. You
Yeah.
feel like it's going to be some sort of balm on you when you're watching when you're watching an older movie or a comedy, but I guess it's not the truth. We were living in a delusional place.
That's why I fall asleep watching jewelry TV every night because nothing bad happens if you're selling tanzanite.
It's good. That's good. I might have to take that.
Do it. It is very soothing. Those women have the most soothing voices. They should do ASMR.
Oh my God, I love that. We've also been falling asleep listening sometimes to my kids really like watching the old Bob Ross shows. That is very soothing. It's very, very soothing.
And look, we're probably just a few weeks away from like you guys getting canvases and easels and paints and
It's
just
happened.
no.
My husband and my daughter have worn Bob Rosses
It did not take long
downstairs
to
right
get you
now,
guys over into that point.
and they're pretty good.
Well, he's an excellent
They're
dancer.
definitely different. My daughter's is a little more abstract, but they're definitely yeah. We've got some warring Bob Rosses right now. It's already happened.
I love it. That's your next Geffen Playhouse video.
Exactly. Oh my God, that's not a bad idea. Amazing.
All right, we have to wrap this up. I cannot thank you enough for doing this today, and what a delight to get to hang out and chat with you about your amazing projects, as always.
Oh, it's such a delight to see you. And also, please keep these going. This is such a great idea. It's so great.
Thank you. I'm excited about it. I get to talk to all my TV and film people that I haven't talked to.
I'm really, really thrilled and very flattered that I get to be that I get to be your first guinea pig on this.
And my first ask. That's also important.
Oh, that's good. And I was like, yes.
Now I just have to get Michaela Watkins to do something theater related so I can have her on.
Oh, I know. She's done some. You can. There's got to be a way.
I'm going to find a loophole.
I got to get back to I'm very excited to get back to New York and do a play. I'm really, really hankering for it. That was too long ago. It's crazy to think about how long ago that was and how amazing that experience was. And I can't wait for that next chapter.
God,
I got to grow my kids up faster.
I mean, so much time has passed, but we're still in our 20s.
No, I know. It's crazy that we don't age at all. I don't understand what's happening.
It's,
you know why?
Jen.
Jen!
All right.
Keeps it lukewarm.
Kathryn Hahn, thank you so much. You were a delight.
Oh, it's so good to see your face. This was so fun. Oh.
I will talk to you soon. And Playbill viewers, tune in next week for the next guest. It'll be a surprise.
It might be me again.
Who knows?
Bye. Thank you for having me. This was so awesome. It's so good to see you.
It's so good to see you.
Please stay sane and safe and healthy and all that. And I'm so excited about this whole thing. It's so awesome you're doing this. People will be hankering for it.